Welcome to Keever's Place, the KeeverMurdaugh show and podcast. We hope that by the end of our show, you'll left feeling empowered, motivated, and connected. So come on in the room, grab your favorite drink, sit back, and enjoy the ride, because you're finally at home at Keever's Place. Now give it up for our host and producer, Coach Keever Murdaugh.
Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of Keever's Place, the KeeverMurdaugh show and podcast. Yes, so we have another amazing show outlined for you tonight. I'm so excited for you joining us. If you are new to Keever's Place, my name is Keever Murdaugh. I am a coach, I'm a brand strategist, I'm a speaker, facilitator, now a new author, and also the CEO and founder of KLM Enterprises. So yes, I'm so excited. Like I said, I've just co-authored a couple of new books. You can definitely pick those books up. I talked about them our last show, which was on our special edition show on this past Tuesday. So definitely pick up the Affirmations of a CEO on the Move. If you're looking for a powerful book that is a journal that has wonderful affirmations and tips from women that have been where you might be at this moment. And while you're at it, go ahead and pick up Born to Lead, Awakening the Leader Within with the visionary leader, Jacqueline Kabai Harrison. You can find both of those books on my Linktr.ee. So I'm going to drop that in the description. So just visit www.linktr.ee and make sure you got .ee /KeeverMurdaugh and grab your copies of those books. They are very moving, and I'm so proud to have co-authored such great projects. For our show tonight, I am so honored to have in our house where we have authentic conversations in atmospheres that feel like home. And our guest tonight is David Richman. He is very interesting. I'm so excited to talk to him and to learn about his struggles and how he has persevered. So if you are one of those individuals that have gone through trials and tribulations and not really sure how to get beyond that stuck to accomplish, then you are in the right place tonight. So let me just introduce you to David so we can go ahead and bring him on the screen. I'm so glad to have him in our house tonight. So David, he's an he's an entrepreneur, getting tongue-tied. He's an entrepreneur, he's an author, he's a public speaker, he's an athlete, and he is a philanthropist. He uses the lessons learned in his life to enrich and inspire others. With his first book, Winning in the Middle of the Pack, David discussed how to get more out of ourselves than ever imagined before. And now David shares the interconnected stories of others overcoming obstacles, specifically cancer, in his second book, Cycle of Lives. So help me welcome to Keever's Place, David Richman. So how are you? Welcome.
Well, thank you, Keever. I'm very excited to be here. You look great. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to talk to you.
Awesome. Same here. I am so glad to have you. Like I stated in my introduction, you have definitely you really piqued my interest because just reading a little bit more about you, just some of the struggles you have endured, which actually motivated you to write your books. So before we actually dive into all of that information, let's just allow yourself just a few more minutes to tell our audience a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, sure. So in the context of our discussion here, I love the idea that you never know what people are going through, or you never know what they have been through, right? We tend to have a persona that we have out in the public, either at our work or with family and friends, or wherever, in whatever situation. And then we have the real us, and and nobody really knows what we've been through or what we're going through. And you could say that about almost anybody you talk to. I think in the context of what we're going to talk about, on the one side, I was successful businessman. I was running $100 million in revenue division for a major Wall Street firm. I had, good friends. I had some physical possessions, and most people that would have seen me would have been like, "Hey, dude, man, you got your act together and everything's going well." What they didn't know, and what I, had a hard time facing, was the struggles that I was having in my life. I was in a very toxic relationship, married to an abusive alcoholic. I was very overweight. I was a smoker. I was very depressed. I was not happy. Didn't really know where my place was in the world, and how to interact with the world. I wasn't living on purpose, and I was just stuck in a very, very, very bad place, personally, emotionally, and whatever. So that's kind of like that the setup, Keever, for our discussion is, on the one hand, yeah, okay, I was doing pretty good, but on the other hand, I was a complete wreck, and I was in a very, very bad situation. And it wasn't until, Keever, I heard the words that sometimes you need to hear. You got affirmations in your book, and maybe somebody could hear those things 100 times, but when they read it one time, they're like, "Oh, that's like right then and there." Like it just hit them, because that's when they needed to hear it. And I had a friend, Keever, who said to me, he goes, "Look, dude," he said, "listen, I've been listening to you complain for years." He goes, "and all you ever do is encounter problems like it's a wild animal. And every problem you encounter, you go home, you clean it up, you feed it, and then you pet it, and it bites you, and you're wondering why it bit you. Meanwhile, it's just a wild animal, dude. Why do you keep looking for problems you can't solve? Why do you keep picking wild animals? And what you need to do is look at what your problems are." And yeah, okay, I probably hadn't done that until then on any meaningful level. I was always mad at the world, or wondering why I had any problems and all these issues, and gotten these bad relationships and had these difficult uphill struggles. Meanwhile, I never really looked at the guy in the mirror and said, "What's your problem, dude? Like, what, what can you do to work on?"
Mm-hmm. And sometimes we really need that. We just need that person within our circle who is going to be honest with us, and who are going to hold our feet to the fire, and kind of force us to acknowledge some of those issues that we are always running away from. So yeah.
Yeah, so I kept my head down and looked at challenges as something to solve, and sometimes that worked out positively. Other times I looked at challenges as a roadblock, and maybe sometimes it didn't work out positively, but I was always looking at the roadblock, or always looking at the challenge. Or, if I found myself in a personal or a professional relationship that wasn't working out for me, in fact, maybe it was exactly the opposite of working out for me, I always looked at that person or that issue or that situation as the problem. I had never had an awareness that maybe I'm the problem, right? Maybe I'm not doing things properly. Maybe I'm making bad decisions. Maybe I'm the one that is not motivated in the proper ways. I'm not measuring myself in the proper ways. I'm not setting my own goals. I mean, there was a number of things that I was really in touch with a lot of people, but I wasn't in touch with myself at all. And that's what I think my friend Chris gave me the ability to do. I was very observant, very aware, able to solve problems, learning lessons, teaching lessons, leading people. I was doing all those things. But if I was my own student, I didn't teach myself a thing, not up until then.
Powerful, powerful. I love that. Now, you mentioned, David, that you were a smoker, you were overweight, but I was reading you have run countless of marathons, and you are a triathlete. I
Yep.
mean, I'm curious to know what actually motivated you to make such a drastic transition in
Sure.
your life and your health.
Sure. Well, look, you're an achiever, and a lot of people that follow you are achievers. And one of the things that we don't like to do when we're achieving is to fail. I mean, sometimes we have to, right? Sometimes you have to know when to quit. Sometimes you have to realize you took on too much, or you weren't qualified to do something. Sometimes you fail, but it's not something we like doing at all. And being that I had never really focused on myself, I certainly hadn't tried to live a purposeful life. I said, man, if I'm going to quit smoking, dude, I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail at quitting smoking, because if I do, then, what's going to happen? I didn't want to fail at getting healthy. I had 4-year-old twins at the time, got me and them to safety, and I didn't want to fail being a good parent for them. I didn't want to fail this kind of like quote unquote second lease on my personal life, getting out of that bad situation. So I just said, man, what can you do to not fail? And I said, well, the first thing you got to do is do something that you can't do while you smoke. So that's run. You can't smoke and run at the same time. Well, I mean, you could, but you look pretty stupid. So I tried to run 2 minutes and I couldn't do it. But then next time I ran 2 minutes, and then I ran 5 minutes, and then I ran a mile, and then I did a 5K and a 10K. And then I said, well, maybe I could be on a bike. You certainly can't smoke while you're swimming. So maybe I should try swimming. And so I just became, in my free time, focused on being athletic. And that led me to doing, half marathon, and then a marathon, and then an Ironman, and then 50-mile runs and 100-mile runs and 300-mile bike rides and all this crazy stuff. Wow. And part of the reason that I was drawn to it was not just because it was keeping me healthy or making me healthy, and not just because it made me, lose weight, keep from smoking, be a better example to my kids, but it also, Keever, became a place of meditation and discovery and enlightenment and meditation. It just was a place where I could go, because how often do we, look at all the things you mentioned you do. How many hours and hours and hours in a day do you have to contemplate your own stuff? You don't. We don't have that time. You just go, 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 and then you fall asleep and wake up and go, 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 go again. And maybe you take a yoga class, maybe you go to a movie, maybe you read a book, but really, when do you have hours and hours and hours to really focus on the things that we need to find out, like living a more purposeful life, like what does it all mean, like what am I doing that's right, what am I doing that's wrong, how am I interacting with the world, which relationships are important to me, which ones should be important to me, all these kind of heavy questions I was able to ask myself and find out the answers to while I was doing this endurance athletics. So it became kind of two things. One, a physical thing for me, but it certainly became an emotional one and a psychological one, because that's where I do a whole lot of self-care and a whole lot of planning and a whole lot of contemplation. And I still do to this day. I still love that part about endurance athletics, is it's a really good place to go and just figure out all the stuff that's going on.
And that's a wonderful point, and I say all the time on the show, to find that outlet to where you can decompress, you can self-reflect, you can meditate, you just to make sure that you are recognizing not only your vision, but you're staying on purpose. And for you, what I'm hearing you say is that actually ties into your running and swimming in these marathons. So you use that as a way to make sure that you are grounded and to be able to hear and just stay focused and driven on whatever you have going on in your life. I love that. And that's so important, because self-care, self-reflection, self-discovery is so important. And I believe that that's what kind of keeps us a whole individual. We don't coach part of an individual. So just making sure that we are taking care of that entire being is so important. So I'm glad that you are using that as your means or your vehicle to make sure that you are staying whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah, becoming whole, because right, yeah, but you're absolutely right. What you said was spot on and beautiful, and it wasn't like staying whole, it was becoming whole. I don't know if anybody out there has this persona, but one of my personas was I only cared about what others thought or what I thought they thought about me, right? Like, I got to do this because the teacher's going to be happy. I got to do this to make the boss happy. I got to do this because that's what my significant other thinks I should do, or right? So I was always looking to others for validation, for purpose, to measure my worth, to measure, what kind of impact I was having. Meanwhile, I was absolutely wrong, because they were all just caring about their own things, as well they should. but I never cared about the guy in the mirror. What did he think? And I didn't know. So I had to start somewhere. For me, I know a lot of people, you figured this out. Obviously, you figured out a pathway for yourself way earlier than I did. I didn't even start till my late 30s to say to the guy in the mirror, like, who are you? What do you stand for? What do you want out of life? What makes you whole? I didn't even know what made me 1%, you know? And so it was a beautiful learning exercise to allow myself to focus on myself and allow myself to care what I thought about things. That's it was a hard thing for me to do.
Mhm. Were you able to come to that self-reflection, David, on your own, or did you hire a coach or a mentor?
Well, I definitely had different people in my life that made a definite impact on me, right? In business, I had not a mentor, but somebody who she taught me, uh, I don't know, 100 business and life lessons. And I don't think she purposely set out to be my mentor, but um, but I can think of at least 100 ways that I think about business and life and interactions and personalities, that type of stuff that came from her, and the lessons I learned watching her, learning from her, interacting with her, being managed by her and led by her. But I don't think that was a formal kind of mentee mentor relationship or coaching relationship. I told you about my friend Chris, who probably taught me the biggest lesson in the world, which is stop looking at everybody else as the problem and start thinking of yourself as the problem, right? I mean, I could have hired a coach for 10 years, and if he didn't tell me that when I needed to hear it, it wouldn't have had the impact on me.
Yeah.
So I probably would have preferred, had I been smart enough, to hire a coach when I was young, to look for mentors when I was young, but I wasn't smart enough to do that. And so, although I've had people that have had a profound impact on me, it wasn't in a, very preconceived way. It wasn't in a very logical way. It wasn't in a way that, like what you do for your clients and for your community is very measurable, very logical. It's very like, here, you're at point A, let me get you to point Z, wherever that is, and I'll be with you along the way and all this stuff. I mean, it's great. It's just I wasn't dialed into that line of thinking until much, much later in life. And so I was able to, fortunately, I was able to teach myself a whole lot of lessons because finally I gave myself the permission to look at myself as the example and care more about what I thought about me than other people thought about me, which again, hard thing to do.
Yeah. Better late than never, though. Yeah. Glad you listened to that. Better late than never.
Yep.
So you actually authored a couple of books. One of them was Winning in the Middle of the Pack. And you have spoken so eloquently about self-reflection and self-discovery. So I wanted to ask you, what actually surprised you the most about self-discovery during this writing process?
Let me tell you a super quick story. Okay. So, when I started doing endurance athletics, okay, I was very self-conscious. I said, man, I don't belong in this room, right? I had imposter syndrome. Like a lot of people you coach have imposter syndrome, right? Like I haven't deserved it. I shouldn't be here. Anything that good happens to me is an accident. I mean, you could name it, right? Right. So I'm starting to do endurance athletics, and I'm very self-conscious because I'm still overweight. I'm not an athlete. Like I have no business being at the events that I'm at. That's what's going on in my head. And so the very first long distance event that I ever did, it's one of these wave starts. So basically they send out different age groups at different times so that and not everybody's in the water taking off for the swim at the same time, right? And I went down to the start, Keever, and I said, you know what? I got to see what these athletes look like because I don't know what I got myself into. And every single one of them looks like a Greek god. I mean, I'm like, holy cow, there's not an ounce of fat on all of them combined. And they all look like athletes. I mean, they're confident and they're, ooh, and I'm like, oh my God. And I literally, Keever, almost got my car and went home. I almost did because I said, I don't belong here. And the gun goes off and the swimmers take off. And I'm not going to say that there wasn't some Greek god swimming there, because maybe 90% of the people out there started taking off like they're real athletes. But then right after that cleared out, I saw, this one dude flipped over on his back and he started reverse doggy paddling, and another guy started swimming in circles, and another guy was like afraid to get in the water, so he was just walking. And I'm like, oh man, they don't care. Like, they're just doing the best they can do. They're just trying to figure out who they are. Like, why do you care what anybody else thinks? Or what? Just go out there and do it for you, man. Like you can do that. If nothing else, you don't have to go flipping on your back doing doggy paddle, right? So don't worry about them. They're not worried about it, what anybody else thinks. And so, long answer to your question, but the biggest surprise about self-discovery is, for me, was to be able to just exactly do that. Go on a quest of self-discovery, right? Self, like, worry about yourself. Now, look, a lot of things I do are for others. That I don't mean be selfish in your discovery, but for me, that was the biggest surprise. Was like, I keep saying it, but just this idea that it's okay to put yourself first when you're thinking about it. That sometimes, Key, when you're on the airplane and they go, oh, if the cabin loses pressure, put the mask on yourself first and then your child. And I used to think, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Like, I got kids. No way, man, I'm putting it on them. But then somebody was like, no, man, nobody likes a dead hero. Put it on yourself first and then put it on them. Oh, now I get you.
Exactly. I love it. And I also love the fact that, David, you went out there to that water, you faced that water, and you did it. You did it scared. You did it apprehensively. You did it without even knowing what the outcome was going to be, but you did it. And people need to understand that even though things may not seem perfect in our lives or our business, still jump, do it anyway. You might surprise yourself. You might actually come out better than you started on the other side. So
there's a great quote. So Ironmans are long distance triathlons, right? It's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, then you jump off the bike and you go run a marathon. So for the average athlete, you're talking 12 to 14, 15 hours of an event. That's a lot, right? And there's this beautiful quote by one of the original guys that came up with this idea of an Ironman. This is now going 40 plus years ago. And he said, you know what? During the Ironman, you're going to quit. You're going to want to quit 1,000 times. And he says, and if you do, nobody's going to care, but you're always going to know. And he said, what makes me not quit is I'm not going to finish first. Maybe I will one day, but most likely I'm not going to finish first, but I'm going to finish way ahead of the guy that never started. And I'm like, oh, that's a great way to think about it. Like, you don't have to be first to win. You just got to be ahead of all the people that didn't start. Right? I mean, it's just a different way of saying exactly what you just said.
Exactly. So let me ask you this. Did that quote gave you the title of your book? Because I noticed reading it, it says winning in the middle of the pack versus the beginning or the end. So did that inspire you to picking this particular title?
Well, I went through it did along with about 100 other things. But when you write a book and you're working with the editor and you're going back and forth on, how it's all going to be laid out, the title has to make sense. And I'll be really quick about this, Keever, but basically my theory is that, you know what, I'm probably never going to be Oprah Winfrey. I'm probably never going to be Elon Musk. I'm never going to be Michael Jordan. Those guys are at the top of the list. And they're at the front of the frontest pack there ever was, right? And I don't have a lot in common with them. But I also don't have a lot in common with the dude that's 35 years old playing video games, living on his mom's couch, right? So I don't have much in common with either ends of those spectrum, and that's okay with me, right? But I'm in the middle somewhere in the middle. And I guarantee you that Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and Michael Jordan never cared a thing about what anybody else thought or what anybody else said, right? They don't need anybody to tell them what they're going to accomplish in life. They're self-driven. They self-measure. They care about other people. But honestly, you can't tell them what to do. And guess what? The 35-year-old dude that's living on the couch, He doesn't hear a word anybody says about getting a job and getting his own place and stop leeching off his mom, right? They don't hear it. But so why do I care what other people think? Why am I caring how they're measuring me? I shouldn't. So if I'm going to be more, if I'm going to adopt one quality of them, being that I'm somewhere in the middle, it is, you know what? Just go out and do it for yourself.
I
And
love
that's
that.
and so that is winning in the middle of the pack. So I don't have to win the race. I just have to win saying, did I set a high enough goal? Did I, is it a proper goal, right? Is it a good goal for me and for others? Is it high enough? Is it worthy? Does it require effort? Am I going to feel good if I accomplish it? Am I going to learn from it if I don't? Is it meaningful? And then go, there you go. That's it. Now just go out there and do your best. And if you accomplish it and you happen to do some good along the way, that's winning. I might not win the race, but you know what? I set enough of a goal that was meaningful and I accomplished it. I won.
Winning on your own terms. I
Yeah.
love it. I love that. Now, you also just recently published a new book,
Mhm.
The Cycle of Lives. Give us a little bit of background on what actually inspired you to write this book.
Sure, and thank you for that. The time frame of when I look in the mirror and said, for like an hour after my friend Chris said, "Dude, look in the mirror. You're the problem." I said, okay, and I stood in the mirror and I started looking and I started to make these changes and it really allowed me the ability to start to rewire my brain and interact with the world. And I saw ahead of me, Keever, this like endless path, right? Of, oh, look what I could learn, look what I could accomplish, look where I might go, how exciting this is. And I felt like, boom, I'm going to find out my purpose and go live this meaningful life. At that exact same time, I got a call from my sister telling me that she had terminal brain cancer. And so her path at that same time, even though she had accomplished a lot, she was living purposefully. She had a wonderful relationship with her husband, great kids, great friends, really a sense of meaningful life. Now her path was going to be very short. And it kind of hit me, right? What a difference we have. And it made me be really more aware and try to interact with her at a deep level because I wanted to learn what I could from her. And I wanted to, just be with her as much as I could and see what she was going through. And I came across this dynamic Keever that seemed to be really prevalent and it really touched me. And the dynamic was, it didn't matter if it was a doctor or a nurse or the patient or a loved one or survivor, family member, it didn't matter. They all were really good about dealing with tasks related to the cancer. How do I navigate insurance? How do I get better care? How do I get my kids watched? How do I eat better? How do I sleep better? But when it came to how do you feel? What's going through your mind? What kind of emotions are running through you right now? Those conversations are not easy to have, right? And I noticed that with almost everybody I watched, and it really touched me. And I wanted to go on a quest to find out, why is that? Why do we have such a hard time? And look, I'm that way too. Why do we have such a hard time talking about the emotional aspects of trauma? And there's a million reasons why, but I wanted to try to find out why, so that maybe when we are going through something difficult, we'll be more inclined to let people connect with us on an emotional level. But more importantly, when people around us are going through something traumatic, that we are empowered to start hard conversations so that we can form deeper, more authentic connections with them. And that's what the Cycle of Lives is all about.
I love that. And I love that your book is literally a blueprint to start that process of having that very difficult and intimate conversation. Because, like you said earlier, it's very hard to cultivate that conversation when you're talking about feeling and cancer, and especially those that we get the news that are terminally ill. Sometimes you just don't know exactly what to say, so I can really appreciate you authoring such a book that really gives us the tools and the strategies that we could implement immediately in how to start those conversations, how to listen, because you can talk, but sometimes people just need you to just listen and just be there and just to be present.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think this book is going to be definitely powerful and impactful in that way.
Thanks, Keever. And when you think about it, like some people, people are different in the way they learn lessons, right? Like if you got 10 coaches in a room together, and I said to you, hey, each one of you 10 coaches, give me 5 lessons that you've learned that can enhance my experience and teach me leadership and value and all of these other things. I might learn something from it. But if you then pulled each one aside and said, listen, let me tell you what's behind the lessons I learned. Let me tell you how difficult it was for me as a kid, or let me tell you what I overcame in an abusive relationship, and this is what it taught me. Or let me tell you about the 5 failures in business that I had that I don't like to brag about, but what let me tell you about the parent that I saw that never thought I was going to make myself anything, and used to tell me that over and over and over. And look, what drives people, what the story behind what they've gone through, the traumas that they've experienced, allows me to really learn from their lessons.
Mhm.
And I don't, in the book, I don't prescribe, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. What I do is I reveal the real emotion behind traumas that we could all identify with, and we could all have compassion for, and we can all have empathy for, and we can all have an emotional connection to. I reveal these stories because it's framed around why their traumas and why the emotional difficulties that they've had in life, which we all have, why those things were a factor in them being able to connect, or why those were a factor that prevented them from connecting on an emotional level with others. In other words, if you were abandoned as a kid over and over and over, and as a young adult you were abandoned over and over and over, and even as a a parent, not maybe you were abandoned, and all of a sudden you need people. Do you think you're going to be, when your friend says, hey Keever, what do you need, man, let me help you out, you're going to be like, oh no,
Mm-mm.
I'm fine, man, trust me, I'm fine, I don't need anything? Why? Because it's possible if you lean on them, they're going to abandon you. Everybody else has. Right? And so I say to you, Keever, I know something's going on, man. Let me help you out. What can I do? And you go, dude, I'm totally fine. It's all good. And then thank gosh you didn't ask me for anything, because I don't know what the heck I could do anyway. Yeah, I don't even know what to say, right? And you're sitting there going, man, it'd be nice if somebody really cared. But if I open up and told him, he's just going to say, sorry, man, too busy, or he's not going to understand me, or he's going to make fun of me, or whatever. I don't know. And it doesn't allow us to connect in an authentic way. But once I know what's behind, the courage it took you to let me ask you, hey, is there anything I can do? And if you had a safe space where you could tell me, and you believe that I wasn't going to abandon you, then we can now connect in a different level. And I think that that's what these stories teach people.
I love that. So you have really taken 15 different stories, but you tied it into cycling thousands of miles. What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, I think in talking to people, and I talked to way more than 15, right? But 15 made the book because we were able to go down every dark hallway and open up every box that had 1,000 locks on it about their emotional traumas. Not everybody's able to do that. And heck, I'm not a professional. I'm not a therapist or any I don't know, MD, nothing. I don't have the skills to get through to everybody. But 15 of them, we were able to go as deep as you could go, right? I mean, deep, deep, deep with everyone. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Darn it, I hate that.
We
I
were talking about how you were able to tie in cycling
Oh
with
gosh, I'm
the
so
various
sorry. Yeah,
stories.
yeah,
That's
I was
okay.
just thinking ahead of myself. So what happened is, as I'm connecting with people, and thank you for bringing me back on track, is I realized that we were really only connected by 2 things. Okay, and the 2 things that all people are connected by is their ability to lean in when you go, oh, I got a story for you. Like if you're walking down the street and somebody says, hey, Keever, I got some info for you. You'll be like, no, thanks. I don't have time. Right. Or if they go, hey, Keever, I got a story. Come here. You're like, what? Right. Who doesn't want to hear a good story? We're all connected by story. The other thing I think we're all connected by as human beings, even though we have different emotional responses to things, we're all connected by emotion. So I thought if we're connected by story and we're connected by emotion, why not get on my bike and connect the stories by biking to the people? Because I had talked to them on the phone for like a year to up to 2 years, some people, but I had never met them. So what better way to connect these stories than to get on my bike and cycle to each one of them? And I had hoped, Keever, that I would each day along the way, and it turned out to be true, run into people that would reinforce this idea. Because I didn't know if I had made it up that it was difficult to talk about the emotional side of things. Everybody I spoke to said that, but I only spoke to a couple hundred people. On my bike ride, I was going to meet thousands, right? Mm-hmm. And so every single person that I spoke to on the bike ride had some level of, man, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Somebody at work told me about their kid and something happened to him and I don't really know what to say. Mm-hmm. You know, I had this woman, the memory of her still so close to me. She said, I was so close to my grandpa, and he just died of cancer 2 weeks ago. And he and grandma were married for 45 years. And I don't know what to say to grandma. What do I say? And I'm like, man, everybody's got that issue. Why is that? And so part of the reason that I went on the bike ride was I wanted to discover, was this something that I had made up or was this something that's real? And it's very, very real. Not just with the people in the book, but everybody can identify with that. Mm-hmm. So that was the main reason. I mean, there were other reasons too, but part of it, my sister died. I wanted to try to process those emotions. Part of it was I wanted a physical challenge, which would be bring a lot of notoriety to the book. And I mean, lastly, as we talked about a while ago, I wanted the contemplation. So being on a bike for 12 hours a day for 6 weeks straight gave me the ability to contemplate my emotions, the stories, and how I was going to write the book. So there were a lot of reasons why I went on the bike ride.
I love that. And I love how you use the bike as a way to connect and to not only connect people, but connect stories and just bring it and just tie it all in. So impressive. I have thoroughly enjoyed you tonight.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to talk to you, and I'm sorry for some of the long answers, but you ask good questions and it just makes me think like I better answer you fully, you know?
Not a problem. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. So just to get to learn you on a little bit of a personal side before we drop your contact information, what are some of your pet peeves, whether that's in business or personal? I want to know what kind of ticks you off.
Okay, I'll tell you what sets me off is probably the thing that is the most annoying in not a strictly personal way is people who already have the answer to the question. Like everybody, the person that knows everything, like nothing's new to them. They can't learn anything. Nothing's fresh, right? Things are the way they are because they are. They're just closed to any new ideas. And to me, that's the opposite of the way we should live our lives. I feel like almost every interaction we have can be a learning exercise, can be a new way to see things, can provide a fresh perspective. You know, so I think a pet peeve is I really have nothing in common with the person that already knows the answer to every question. So that's a pet peeve. If you already know the answer to the question, then we were probably not going to get along. That's a pet peeve. Second pet peeve is we can't all be nice all the time. And sometimes, you know, we perceive that we're not being nice and we just got to give ourselves a break. Like I had a rough day, so I'm not gonna be nice to everyone. I don't like not nice people. Right? Like even if we disagree, even if we vehemently disagree, there's no reason why we can't be nice to each other, right? There's too much anger, there's too much violence, there's too much closed-mindedness. I really don't have any patience for people that aren't kind. And
I
so,
love that.
that's a pet peeve to me. If
Mhm.
you're an angry person, we probably don't have a lot in common.
And you have to guard your spirit, you have to guard your mind around just people who are just always negative. They can't find anything positive going on. Even with the sun, they mad because the sun too hot.
Exactly, right? Yeah, yeah,
You can
and
never please them.
yeah, and I feel like it's a gift that was given to me when I finally looked in the mirror and said, okay, what's important to you? And you know what I found out that's important to me is being optimistic. And I mean, look, I'm 59 years old. I'm doing Ironmans. I'm doing 100-mile runs. I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and I still believe. I mean, I'm happily married now to a wonderful woman. My kids are grown. I got a million different things I'm going to accomplish in the world and have accomplished in the world. I still think my best days are ahead of me. Like
Mhm.
I'm just wired to be optimistic, and so anybody that wants to say like I shouldn't be optimistic or that thinks that they shouldn't be optimistic about what tomorrow could bring, I kind of don't have much in common with.
Exactly. And you have to be careful because we are what we say we are. We have the power to speak blessings, we have the power to speak curses. So manifest those positive thoughts and those positive actions, and live on a positive, light. Live positively. Because
Mhm.
if you are going to doom yourself, then I mean, it's nothing nobody else can do. Um you have power over your own destiny. So make it happen.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Love
So
it.
those are a couple of my pet peeves. I maybe have a few more, but those
I
are the main
love
ones.
it. But David, like I said, it has been such an honor to have you here. It's been so much fun. You are, of course, welcome back to Keever's Place anytime, but we need to let them know how to get copies of your book so we can
Sure.
go ahead and put that information out there. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have definitely heard, if you're just joining us, we're here with David Richman, who just recently authored a wonderful book, Cycle of Lives, talks about just cancer, stories of cancer and how he has used his athleticism to connect those stories and those people together. So definitely get your copy. You can reach out to David on one of his websites is david-richman.com. You can also go to cycleoflives.org to get your copies of the book. If you would like to reach out to David on social media, you can find him on Facebook /cycle of lives, or you can go to his Instagram, go to instagram.com /David Richman _cycle of lives. So basically, if you just Google cycle of lives,
You'll
you will
find
be
me.
bound to find David Richman. Okay. So definitely get your copy of his book, especially if you have those in your innermost circle that is going through some trying times, and maybe you just feel like you just don't know what to say. So go ahead and pick up his book, and I pray that it gives you that insight and that guidance that you need to be present and impactful in their lives.
Wonderful. And two quick things. One is the book is very inspirational and positive thinking and very optimistic. There's some heavy stories in there, but every story has a positive, optimistic, insightful, really uplifting aspect of it. And the second thing, and I appreciate you letting me have a minute to say this, Keever, is that the proceeds from the book, whether it's sold on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or in the bookstore or on my website, the proceeds from the book, 100% of the proceeds go to all the different cancer-focused organizations that the book participants picked. So I named those organizations in the book. The organizations are all listed on the website. So whatever comes into me goes out the door to those institutions. It's not a lot of money. There's not a ton of money in books, but 100% of what comes to me goes out to support those organizations.
Mm.
Hi, Keever.
Yes, I had to give you a round of applause for that, because not only did you write the book, but you're also giving back again through the sales of the book. This man is phenomenal. You guys pick up his book, Cycle of Lives, and not only are you going to read some wonderful conversations and stories about some wonderful people, but you're also going to be donating to various research for cancer. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win. So definitely support David. Amazing. Well, David, it has been an honor. I'm going to allow you any last final words, anything you want to say to perhaps encourage, just any final words. The floor is yours before we close out the show tonight.
Sure. I would just say anybody who's watching, first of all, to be a coach and an author and run your show and produce your show while you're running it. I mean, you're pretty amazing, Keever. So I would just like to shout out that what you're doing is building a business, giving back, and obviously you have some amazing skills and the ability to organize and, you know, so many other things. So I'm very impressed. I really appreciate the opportunity, and certainly if the talk we had touches anyone, they'll know how to get a hold of me, and they will definitely have learned also a little bit more about you and your abilities too. So keep it going. You're great at what you do, and definitely appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And like I said, it has been such a pleasure, and I have enjoyed you tonight. And like I said, any other projects you have coming up, you are definitely welcome. So you are no longer a stranger at Keever's house, okay?
Beautiful. Next time I'm biking over there on that end of the country, I'll stop by and say hello.
Do that. I would love to meet you in person. Yes. Love it. All right. Well, family, I hope you have enjoyed our show tonight. Be sure to definitely share this broadcast. Find us on all social media and go ahead and click. We are definitely trying to grow our YouTube channel. So I want you to go to YouTube, okay, and look up Keever's Place. And not only look it up, I want you to hit that bell, hit that notification, and I want you to like and subscribe. We're trying to grow. We are now in 25 different countries. So we are now focused on growing this YouTube channel. So definitely look us up. Don't be a stranger. We family. So share, like, and subscribe, okay? I need your support. So until next time, family, continue to share, connect, and glow, because we understand that building your network also builds your net worth. So until next time, peace and blessings. I love you all. Good night.
Thank you for watching Keever's Place, the KeeverMurdaugh show and podcast. Tune in every Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Keever's Place. To be a guest on our show, text the word guest to 803-368-3030 or visit us at tinyurl.com/Keever's Place Book. And watch us on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire as we're broadcasting in more than 60 million homes worldwide.